Today we're going to really talk about if it's healthy to keep in touch with an ex after a breakup. So in my opinion, staying in touch with your ex without the right type of mindset only serves to feed the addictive nature of a breakup. So I think it's really only healthy to get back in touch with an ex if you have gotten to a place emotionally where you have outgrown them. Now, there's a lot to cover here around the psychology of what occurs when you stay in touch with an ex after a breakup. So here's a list of the few things that we're going to be talking about in this video episode. Number one, we're going to talk about staying in touch with them and why when you make this decision on if you're going to stay in touch with them, basically it should depend on your situational factors and your overall goals. We're also going to take a minute to learn about how often exes actually do stay in touch with one another. I actually came across some really interesting research detailing that. And we're also going to talk about what usually happens when you stay in touch with an ex. We're also going to talk about why it's important for you to view your breakup as an addiction. And finally, the importance of adopting the outgrowth mindset. Let's begin. So, let's start by answering the ultimate question first, before we start picking apart the psychology of everything happening behind the scenes. Should you stay in touch with your ex after your breakup? So in my opinion, it's not a simple yes or no question. A lot of people will make it yes or no. Oftentimes you'll go to Reddit or you'll go to Quora and you'll see people asking the general public, well, should you stay in touch with your ex? And you'll get these resounding, no, you should not stay in touch with your ex. It's completely unhealthy. But I actually think it's not as always simple as a simple yes or no question. I think whether or not you stay in touch with your ex should depend on two things. Number one is your overall goals, and number two is your situational factors. Now, what do I mean when I talk about these two things? Well, your overall goal is basically me referring to if you want to try to get your ex back or not. Generally speaking, everyone who comes to our website is at a crossroads. They're trying to figure out if they want to get their ex back, or they're trying to figure out if they want to get over their ex. Now, generally speaking, if you want to get your ex back, that can only really happen if you do get back in touch with them again after the breakup. However, we've actually seen better results for individuals who want to get over their ex by simply entering into a period of indefinite no contact. So essentially, if you want to get your ex back, you're going to have to get back in touch with them. If you want to get over your ex, sometimes just cutting them out and going to full indefinite no contact is the way to go. Of course, there are some situations where you're going to be forced to interact with your ex after a breakup no matter what, and that really revolves around the situational factors. So these are essentially factors that cause you to interact with your ex no matter what you do. Like you share a child with them, or you have a house with them, or you work together with them. In these types of situations, you're going to be forced to interact with them. But how you interact with them is an important thing to consider. Really answer what statistics are saying on how often exes stay in touch with one another. So what's always really aggravated me about the scientific community was how little research is made publicly available around breakups. In fact, I've never once been able to find a reputable study, save my own internal ones, about the average chances someone has of getting their ex back. The closest I was able to find was in 2015. There was a Associated Press poll done on asking people like, hey, how often have you gone back to an ex? And 43% of people admitted that they had. But that's a flawed study because that's asking them in their entire lives, have you ever gone back with an ex at least one time? We're looking at the average chances for every single breakup. Nothing like that has been done before. Interesting though, a recent study was released detailing how often exes do stay in touch with one another after a breakup. And I actually came across this through Psychology Today. And every time I post a video on YouTube, I basically show you the transcript of everything that I'm saying on my website. And I link to a lot of the stuff I'm talking about here. So the Psychology Today article, if you're interested in reading it, I highly recommend just hopping by our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, and checking it out. But basically, there was a researcher named Lindsay Rodriguez. She studied 260 undergraduate students who had moved on from their breakup with someone else. She was interested in finding out how many of them kept in touch with their previous ex. Turns out 40% of individuals did keep in touch with their exes. Of course, the study, like all breakup studies, was a bit flawed for our purposes here. It's only taking a look at individuals who had current partners. So essentially, the individual went through a breakup, they moved on to someone else, and then they got back in touch with their ex. Now, I'm willing to bet that if you focused on everyone during the post-breakup period, the real number of how often you stayed in touch with an ex would actually be a lot higher. So what should we take from this? Well, I think the thing to take from it, it's really normal for exes to keep in touch with one another after a breakup. But that doesn't really answer our question on if it's healthy for an individual to stay in touch.